Welcome to Dr. M Health Corner Talk Show. Welcome. It's Dr. Unathi here, your host. I'm happy to be here. It's a Friday, 12:15 p.m. MST, 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 8:15 p.m. South African time. Welcome. I see people are coming on. Today, we have quite a sensitive topic we're going to explore. It is a very big topic, and it's not for an hour discussion, to be honest. This is our part one. We're going to come back here with part two and probably part three. Before I don't want to waste our time. I'm going to introduce our guest here, Mrs. Tholinhlanhla Dlamini-Ngcoya. She is a counseling psychologist out in Dodi, in KZN. She's actually also a founder and basically a director of 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐭 Foundation, which is a hub for mental health issues. And of course, she runs her private practice in Dodi. Welcome, Tata.
Thank you. Hi, Sissy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sis?
We're surviving. We're okay.
I know. Let's talk about, Tata, you guys are surviving. There's brutality occurring in our country right now. So much happening in the month of August, and this is Women's Month. Let's talk about that. What's going on in South Africa right now?
The sad part is it has become a thing of the Women's Month is the month when most women die. So So I don't understand whether there's a mark that needs to be met on this month. It's just ridiculous to say we are celebrating women and this is what is happening. And I don't know. I really don't know how we can tackle this topic without it being so sensitive.
It's very sensitive, Glada. You know, it took me time to get to this place to want to discuss this. Thank you so much, viewers. Let us know if you can hear us. Drop us a message where you are tuning from. Tata, let's talk about gender-based violence. And of course, we're going to take a deep dive on what you just shared. Yeah. August is a month of women. Go ahead, sis.
So look, when I did my studies, I majored in criminology for these reasons, because I always thought, you know, it's very important to understand the mind of those that we call criminals, or the ones that commit the crimes, as to what is happening and why they get themselves to that. And I think what's been going through my mind of lately, and I suppose it's also the cases that have been thrown in, is the lack of positive raising of our male children. So everything has a source, and everything has, so a person, I always say a person is never born an animal, because this act of actually brutally killing somebody with your own bare hands cannot be a crime. It's a mental crisis. And I say, until as a country we start looking at this GBV as a mental crisis, we're not going to get anywhere. Because if we still keep saying it's a crime and people must go to jail and so forth, it really doesn't take us anywhere. Because what happens, we know our system. They go to jail for a month or two and they're out. Then what?
Yes.
You know
what? And I want to actually take you on that one. Do you know that I was looking at the studies in South Africa? South Africa, actually, in 2012, there's a study that showed that South Africa was leading globally with gender-based violence. And it's quite sad, Glada, because the reality is, you probably know, looking at our families, we have a lot of single parent-led families. We have a lot of these families in our country, and this has a very deep and multi-layered cause. As we both know, we come from a country that was affected by apartheid. It has its own layers, and I like the fact that you're mentioning that this is a mental issue, actually, if we can get into the bottom of it. Tell me, with the gender-based violence, our viewers are watching here. Let's unpack this, because sometimes people don't realize they're in gender-based violence relationships or in any type of relationship. Do you want to take us through what is gender-based violence? Take us and so that we can see the types, and also take it down. I would like you actually do that for us.
So for me, I always say, Guti, I think it's about time that we move away from thinking GBV is just men killing women. Yes. Gender-based violence is any gender against killing any gender. So basically we go back to human beings killing another human being with their bare hands or with whatever. But it should, I think the more we focus on women being killed, then men retaliate to say, nobody say anything about us being killed, therefore we should just kill them because we die in silence, you know. Right. So then it takes away this whole thing of being human beings, and then we start focusing on who, and if it's them and us, already, you know, it's just creating, even as you enter a relationship with a male figure, you start thinking, oh my gosh, is he going to kill me? Am I next? What is going to happen? Yes. And the thing about this is then we need to look back. You know, I always say it's a thing that we need to then be just conscious and be honest about, that in South Africa, not just in South Africa, in our country, there are boys who were born into families that already, as the woman was pregnant, there was already that violence brewing in the family, because who is she to be a wife into this family? And so in most cases, if the father is the breadwinner, you will find the grandmother, that's now the female figure in the family, that will make sure that as this boy child is born, nothing good happens for him. So he is born, as it comes into this earth, he's already cursed into not having a good life. He's already cursed into doing anything that's going to either put him in jail or get killed. So as you are born, you already have this. You know, so as you grow, you start trying to fight this, but another woman against another woman, which will be a mother-in-law, which will be another, you know, another aunt or somebody like that, is already fighting with your mother. Your father is not present. The father figure in the family is not present. And even if they are made aware of what is happening, it's a woman thing. And because this is happening in any case, the father something has already been done to him so that he cannot react to this situation. So I am telling you now that as this boy grows up, they are watching him as he goes to high school. Oh, no, he's going to be successful. Let's do something. And it could be witchcraft. It could be a mouth. You know, when we talk this evil, and we always just whispering this evilness into this boy's ear, because this boy needs to be a nothing, because this boy cannot make his mother something in this community. Because if he grows up to be something, then this woman that comes from another village, or this woman that we didn't want to be a makoti in this family, is now going to be successful. So then we are killing the generational line. So these are generational traumas and generational curses. And if we don't be fair and look at it that way, we're just going to keep because it is there. It is the fact of the matter that it is there. Because as you are, doctor, I mean, Unati, if you just sit and think, just sit and think, this boy sits and says to this girl, I love you. And whatever happens, he takes a knife or takes a whatever and chops a person. This cannot be humanly possible if you are mentally okay. Yes. I know people don't like us to say this because they say then we're making excuses for the perpetrators. Yes. But that's where we go wrong. If we're going to keep saying we don't look at the source, it doesn't matter why, we don't care why you did it, because we don't want to make an excuse, you must go to jail, then we'll never survive this.
And it goes in circles. You know what? I'm glad you are mentioning the source of this trauma, because recently, actually, in the 90s, United States of Africa actually came up with this study, Adverse Childhood Experiences, exactly what you mentioned. They basically asked these graduates, actually, because as you can see, gender-based violence, it has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. We see people that are in high-profile positions and assassinating their partners or their children sometimes. And you know, these questions they asked, in your background as a child between 0 to 18, were you exposed to violence? Were you exposed to any mental health illness in your family? Let's stay on that one. In our Black culture, for instance, who was diagnosed in the 80s? Who was diagnosed in the 70s? We look at
who is diagnosed now. Who is diagnosed now?
Right.
Who is diagnosed now?
Right. And they asked, so who had this mental illness? Anyone who went to jail, right? And poverty. Did you grow up in a place where there was war? You know, was your dad there? Your parents, was there any divorce, any separation? You tell me all these points, sis. Was there any sexual abuse? Was there any physical abuse? Was there any emotional abuse? These are the factors, sis, that add up. And they said, if you actually ticked most of these above 4 points on these questions, you have a high risk of becoming either violent. Like you said, they end up in jail. All right. High risk of mental illnesses, high risk of alcoholism, drugs. So we have a societal issue here that we are dealing with. And then it goes up. And then now we wonder, we keep taking these people to jail and they come out and do the same thing because we have a failing system, sis. This is a global phenomenon. We have a failing system where, unfortunately, even the jails are not rehabilitating these people well to come out being better humans. Let's talk about this. And you know what? One of my colleagues said to me, please don't forget the socio-economic abuse. The girl child who is not given a human right to go to school and be empowered. What happens next? There's child marriage.
I was actually saying to because I had another article that I wrote on parental favoritism as well, because that also adds up. Because as the country are focusing on women, we have women empowerment, we have take a girl child to school, we have everything is about focusing on protecting the girl child. And the thing I was saying to another person and another client to say, a lot of things that used to be done were never labeled as being abusive. So a lot of things, a lot of women were raped. A lot of kids are born now out of rape because it was never labeled as rape. Because once a boy will actually, to ask you out, he has to prove to his peers that he's gonna get you. So for him to get you, he will grab you and show and bring force. And it was a thing that people would just stand and watch and applaud. And when he's got you, he's like, I've got her. And how many of us women that were sent by the uncle to go fetch my girlfriend where, go fetch my girlfriend there. And then what happens? That woman goes in the room and she gets locked up for the whole weekend and gets raped because to him, he's doing what is manly. It's manly, and he will. And he's not going to hide it because he's going to boast about it on Monday to say, I actually had her the whole weekend, and everyone's going to applaud and say, yay. You know, our grandmothers were married because they were forced into the marriages at the ages of 15, 16. So abuse was already there, but it was applauded. So now we are saying, you know, now you're raping me, now you're forcing me, now you're being those things. So even to men, it's conflicting to them to say, so now I'm abusing you, you know, because even when you sit with couples, you find that a man really thinks what he's doing is just being a husband and just being a man. And the woman is saying, but no, I don't appreciate it this way. But the reason that she cannot appreciate it is because we are empowering women and liberating them to say, once a man does this to you, it is not right. But again, vice versa. Now we're looking at all the stats where we got of how many young 10-year-old to 13-year-old kids got the young girls that were pregnant during this lockdown. Nobody speaks of the boys that impregnated these girls. Right. So what are we doing? Are we not promoting GBV by doing that? Because we're looking at the one gender and busy saying to this gender, you sluts, you sleep around, you prostitutes, you know, because then even the decision of an abortion is a woman's decision. And when you have an abortion, everybody looks at you and points fingers at you. Nobody says, where was the father?
Yes.
Where was the father? How did you get pregnant? Were you raped? Was it consensual? Was it, Nakona, if you agreed, was it because it was a financial situation?
Yes.
It was a social situation because you were chased away from home. The fathers are raping their own daughters. I'll give you a case which I will never forget. One of my friends, when we were very young as a teenager, she was raped several times by her own father. And she couldn't, and every time she got pregnant, he'll make sure she aborts. Every time she got pregnant, he'll make sure she aborts. And this one time when she had this illegal abortion, she then complicated, went to hospital. And when she actually told that it as the father, people didn't believe her.
That's another thing.
While
do not believe these
exactly.
children.
While she was in hospital, and how he was caught is because this one was in hospital, he started raping the younger sister.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I am telling you, that man still roamed the street.
Yeah.
So if your own father does that, he's killing you. Whether he chopped you into a what, at the end of the day, he has killed the soul.
So
how many females are dead? Their souls are dead, and we are counting the bodies that go underground. How many bodies are walking?
Yes.
How many bodies are walking?
How many souls? How many women today? Dada, you know what? You're touching something very sensitive. Let's go back to the marriage part. How many women you see in your clinical practice? I see women who will share with me that, Doc, I have never reached an orgasm because my husband, when we have sexual intercourse, it's a mandate. I have to lay down there. Lots of women that are in their 50s, 60s, they have never, because the force was normalized. And talk of also the issue of the education. And also, I know that we focus on the girls because they have been so long history, girl children being abused. Let's talk about female genital mutilation, which still occurs, by the way. It's happening in this side of the world, in the American side, in Canada. In Europe, we still hear about this female genital mutilation. And what saddens my heart is we use this word culture. And there's also this protection of the name of the family. How many people, let's talk about these men who will rape their daughter or their nieces. And the same elders of the family will say, we cannot take down the name of the family if we report this. So this is a generational trauma that recycles itself. And then you wonder today, why do we have women? We think they're empowered on the outside. They hold big positions in their work positions, but they're dead inside. They are staying in relationships, or they are married to people that are abusive because a girl child had watched her mother abused by her father right throughout her childhood. And then we wonder why marriages are failing today, why we see this recurrence of trauma. Why do we see daughters repeating their mother's wounds? I want us to talk about this. How do we heal women from this? How do we heal boy children from this? Because I like the fact that you went to the root of it. Because us taking them to jail, we're not helping them. How do we rehabilitate these people?
So the thing is, I think it is also very important to deal with the fact that mental health is not being prioritized. So mental health is still not being prioritized. And the women that we're talking about are just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the very few that actually ends up in our rooms. What about the women in the rural areas? What about this very same woman that you're talking about of the genitalia? Those women don't make it into our rooms. They don't make it into our rooms because there's no access. Our public hospitals, in the town where I come from, Eshowe, in KZN, there's no psychologist. There is no single psychologist. You need to be referred to Mpangeni to go see a psychologist. Yes, there are social workers, but what I'm saying is mental health is just not prioritized. So therefore,
South Africa, by the way, is even better. It's still better. What about the other African countries? What about Asia? What about, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's terrible.
So when we then talk about marriages again, I think I've been repeating myself these days, and I was saying, I feel like there needs to be a stop. Like, can we just stop marriages? Like, stop, and start afresh? Because we are a generation that is starting to see that the marriages that there were are not working for us. They never taught us anything. We never gained anything. Even if you were raised in a family with both a mother and a father in a marital situation, you hardly learned anything to take into your own marriage. So we are this generation. I say we are disconnecting to connect. So we're trying to disconnect from what our parents they considered as marriage. They were socialized to be, because as a wife, you are born and socialized to be this wife material that only you just have to go with. I was saying, on your wedding day, you have a woman that is speaking on your first day of marriage, that tells you how difficult it's going to be in marriage, that tells you how you need to bekezela and stay when things are hard. How they're going to tell you, you're not going to question the man whether he comes back in the AMs or he doesn't come back. How they're going to tell you that when he comes back and he wants sex, you don't ask questions, you just give it to him. No emotions are considered, whether you are emotionally well, whether you want to, when you don't want to, whether you've just had a child or you didn't have a child. Nobody cares. Nobody considers that. The socialization says you stay there. When it's too hot to stay, you cannot go back, because mind you, when you got married, you were given this kiss that said, this is your coffin. You are dead in our family. You will die wherever you are going. So if my own family kills me at home and say, you belong there, you are dead to us, in the cultural spirit. So what are they saying? So they're saying to this man, do what you may, do what you want. And when I phone home, I say it's hard, and you run home, they say you cannot run home. You rather run anywhere else, but you can't run here, because when you run here, they're going to make us pay back the lobola. When you run here, we're going to have to pay damages because we took you in. What does that mean?
Yes. Huh? So, sis, like you are saying, there's so much that needs to reform in this thing we call marriage, and also just relationships, because people were given this template and it's no longer working for a lot of people. And unfortunately, not to say our elders, we didn't learn anything from them, but the concept of you endure, it's something that is barbaric to me, because these are the same women that die depressed, never had a chance. Anyone asked, how are you doing emotionally, other than you are told, sit there. We received a dowry, from this family. I mean, there's other cultures, like in India, it's the girl's parents that pay dowry to the boy's side. Sis, honestly, I'm looking at all this abuse that occurs, and I like the fact that you are mentioning boy children, because we have forgotten about boy children. And in the world, we complain about how men are committing all this violence, the gender-based violence. They go to jail. What are we doing to empower boy child? Let's talk about the boy child that impregnates another girl, or even a teacher that will impregnate his student. Like, I get so perplexed with all of this. So where are we going as a society? Because we have a society that has normalized all these things. And today in the African continent, we struggle with illnesses like HIV, because we have socioeconomic status that a girl child is forced into a marriage with a man old enough to be her father, because this man is going to bring this dowry to this family.
It is painful.
We need to re-evaluate this marriage thing.
Yeah, it's really, it's very painful, because the institution of marriage, for me, I mean, that's my specialty. That's my calling. I work with that. It's my calling. I work with marriages and relationships. And I always wonder why I was called into this, because it really makes me. But this is the thing. When this boy child, and I've got 2 sons. So when this boy child is born into this environment, which I told you about, where his father was never told by his own father that he loves him, that he was never told that I'm proud of you, that was never told that what you're doing is good enough, that was never told that this is how you treat a woman, right? So he doesn't know what a hug feels like from growing up. He was told you need to toughen up, you need to be a man. A man doesn't cry, a man doesn't show emotions. A man needs to be strong and provide. And that's what a man is. That was what he was. If he was even lucky to be told that, because some don't even have someone that even says those things. There's no guidance whatsoever. There's no father figure. And when you see a male figure, will be a male figure who I'm not saying, and the reason I'm talking like this is I'm saying we need to keep going back, because our fathers were the men that they were because of their fathers. Yeah. And our great-grandfathers were the men that they were because they were slaves. Yes. They were never given an opportunity to be family men.
Build families.
And they were never.
You know what? I want you to hold there. I look sometimes at our South Africa, like the country where sometimes when South African born indigenous people are critical of other African people. And when you look at the history of family, other African countries, they are strong with family life. They beat us. They beat us. And when I look at the criticism, and of course it has layers too, because I think the anger of mostly our Black people in South Africa, it becomes so directed to these foreign people that come in because of the issues that we have socioeconomically as issues. And then that anger is misdirected, and of course it directed to these people. But what I always wonder is if we could learn from these other countries and look at the family life, the strong family life. Right? The strong family life. I remember when I first met my partner, the one thing, if I shared about someone who's going through stuff, and he would be like, why don't they get married and raise their child? That is the picture of what he understands from his country, because family unit is important. And I said, darling, in South Africa, a lot of times women, once they get pregnant, the man takes off. The fear of that pregnancy. Go ahead.
But remember, for the man to provide, he needed to leave his home, not just his home, but leave his homestead. Yes. So most of the men in KZN had to go to Johannesburg to go and work there. They never had money to go back home. They sent money home. Yeah. So the women were they were now the homeowners and the homemakers, because the man needed to stay a hostel in Durban or in Johannesburg. And come once a year. When he comes home, all he must do is impregnate you and go back, so that you must sit here and raise kids again. So if he didn't do that, then it meant he would stay at home. And if you look around where you come from, where would he then work and provide for his family? So the system was made that then it's not like that. For those that didn't go to Joburg, they went into the nearest town or the cities where there were white people who would hire them as garden boys. So so your father or your grandfather, he is a man in his home, but when he gets to this white man's yard, he becomes a boy. He is a boy. Boy, run there, boy, do this, boy, do that. So when he then comes home, he needs to own back this manhood and take back his power. So how is he going to take back that power? He's going to show the woman that I'm a man. That's when violence starts, because he doesn't come home with the soft heart, and he can't be vulnerable and say, you know what, honey, it's so bad that I'm treated this way there, because once he becomes vulnerable, he's losing his manhood. So you move from being a boy to being a man, but you because you can't be vulnerable, then you become abusive. So then there are children that are being raised in this household, and they're watching this, and then they think, okay, this is how. Because mom is staying here, we was not as kulile, so we also still grow up here. So this is how we do this, And sometimes the very same boy is now angry at his mother for staying with the abusive father. So when you're angry with your mother, you marry a woman who represents your mother. And you start taking the anger because you could not beat up your mother for staying with this abusive man and exposing you to the abuse. When this man was beating you up every day because you are a man and you're sitting here and I can't give you love. So then you are angry at a woman figure. When you marry a woman, you start being abusive to her because that is the figure. When I did theology, I learned that some people cannot pray and say, "Our Father who art in heaven," because a father figure says a rapist, says an abusive, says an alcoholic that will keep me, that will, all of that. So you would rather say our mother in heaven because you are running away from the word father, because the father figure makes you sick. So now when this man gets married to this woman, he's seeing a female figure. She is going to say things that are going to trigger and send him back there. And me as a woman, because I'm expecting him to love me, I'm expecting him to hug me. He doesn't know where that comes from. So then I irritate him. Then he doesn't come home. He stays in a tavern. Then he gets drunk. Then he comes home. And when he comes home, he just wants to sleep with you. He doesn't care how you feel about this because he's just, so
there's no emotions. The emotion is not nurtured. It's not nurtured.
Where does he know that from? And as women, we're still holding back to the socialization that I cannot, so whatever you're going through, you don't share it, you don't tell other people. So keep it in. Especially you were talking about these liberated women that are the Tholinhlanhlas of this world. And you wonder why, so if she's so liberated, why did she keep quiet? But I cannot share that I'm being abused because when I say I'm being abused, you, Nata, are going to say, "Oh, you're a psychologist," and they also abuse you. How, So I'm going to keep quiet. And he's going to use that against me because he knows that I'm not going to expose myself.
Exactly. You know what, Nhlanhla, talk of that piece. We see women who are abused, and hence I said to the viewers, when we look at an abused woman or even a man, we need to be very sensitive because your abuser silences you. The first thing an abusive man or a woman does will silence your voice, will take away your voice. All right. And like you said, you could be a doctor, you could be a psychologist, you could be I always say women are leaders. We are CEOs because you could be a homemaker. You are the CEO of your home. And as high that position as it is, and as prominent as you are in the society, but you have this abusive partner. And like you said, who has silenced your voice and reduced your self-esteem right under your feet. You sit in this relationship that is so toxic, and then you wonder why in the first place this woman or this man attracted this type of a person in the first place. And I like the fact that you go back to the history. Who raised this boy? Who raised this man? Who raised this woman? Right? Because a lot of times we tend to use meritocracy. Oh, she's a CEO. Why would she stay like that? But she's a CEO who has no soul. She's dead inside.
She is a CEO who was raped at the age of 6. Yes. She's a CEO who was repeatedly raped by a group of boys in the village. And when she tried to report it, women said, "Shut up." She is the woman who has been abused physically several times in her entire high school years. And when she got to university, she said, "I don't care what they do to my body, but my soul lives and I'm going to be successful. So I'm going to have the cover that is success and I'm going to reach the ceiling." So the outside looks all bold and healthy. The inside was broken at 6 years old. So the only thing that is working is the intellectual that says, "I know how to study, I know how to hold meetings in the boardrooms, I know," but the emotional side, the spiritual side, the soul is gone. So that's why this woman, because we also share this with this man, so he already uses this against you for his benefit, because he then tells you, "You are useless because I'm doing you a favor because you are nothing," actually, because he knows your soul.
That story.
Yes, He knows your soul, so he can tell you you are nothing. But in the boardroom, they can't tell you are nothing because you have the degrees, you have the certificates to prove that you are something. He has the proof that you are nothing because you told him your whole background and you were vulnerable to him.
Right.
So that's why and then you stay because of that. Yes. And we stay now, and you find a lot of women are staying now because what am I going to lose financially? If I leave him, if I divorce now, I just sit and think, oh my gosh, I built this whole house. I built this house. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my pension because I'm the one that works in this house. He hasn't worked since we started this relationship for 12 years, 20 years. So if I leave, I'm going to lose all my pension. At some point, we need to say material things do not matter. Yes. I need to
regain your soul. Sisters,
regain your
souls. And brothers, when we do part 2, we're going to take a deep dive on the LGBTI community and also men and boy children. Right now, we're focusing on girls. Sisters, you know what? I want you to keep going on. So tell me, let's normalize psychotherapy. Our people, women, I see clients from all walks of life, culturally, racially, but I tend to see the Caucasian community, they have normalized psychotherapy for years. They feel. But we, coming from the Black community, from the Asian community, the Arabic community, mental health is not spoken about. And I must say, probably even this COVID-19 has helped people to speak up, because now we are seeing people locked up. I mean, when COVID-19 hit, we saw stats coming from China, from Italy. People were reporting all these abuses, but unfortunately, those shelters were also packed in Hlahla. They had no way to accommodate these women who were locked up with their perpetrators.
Yeah.
So how do we empower a girl child? That's my question for you.
So the thing is, we need to first move away from the socialization of I'm strong.
Yes.
Because you ask a woman, God does this, why did you not seek help when they tell you what they've been through for 15 years or since birth? Then you started working, then you had medical aid, then you had access to mental health. Why didn't you seek help? I am strong.
You know,
I am strong. Can we just move away from strong, from this Mbogodo notion, from this thing of I can handle this? Because it has been implanted. Like I tell you, there are people who cannot afford mental health. Granted, there are people who can afford mental health but will not come to us, because once it's almost as if it's admitting to being defeated, admitting to being weak, admitting to have failed. You know, for them, sinking mental health is when you've hit rock bottom and you've failed, and you find that also people don't understand the difference between psychiatrist and psychologist. And so people think because I have a mental issue, I need medication. I just need to be on tablets so I can numb the situation, and it does not help.
It doesn't help,
because you are just numbing, you're just putting a cover on this wound. You're not helping it, you know. And the thing is, like I say, it's seeking mental health is look at this. How many Black people roam the street?
Yeah.
Why don't we see white mentally disturbed people on our freeways walking around naked and dirty? Because that community knows we need to take those people to the institutions where they can get help or can be housed. Tina, we have made it so normal. So
and
if you go to
let's talk about that piece. Your relatives, when this person becomes shied away and people are embarrassed to even own you, and yet you have no potential or capacity to make these decisions for yourself.
And it's a thing of Yeah, and they say you were too intelligent. You were too intelligent that you went crazy. It's a norm that, it's something that we just, we make it normal. Look, guys, I always say, Wuti, so now we are African psychologists.
Yes.
That when you come to me, we need to then look at this, formulate it, whether we're formulating it from a cultural perspective or we're formulating from a Western perspective. So there's no way that you can just run away and say, no, Yazini, I don't need it. So when you come to it, it's still, we will still explore your cultural, your African, whether it's witchcraft, whether it's whatever, and still find a solution. So there's no point in you staying away because you say psychologist, it's a thing. Psychology is no more a Western thing. It's no more for white people. We are Black and we are there for a reason. We are Black and we are there to change the narrative, to say, us Black people also need these services and we need them in our own African perspective. So when you come to me, I'm not going to say sit there and speak psychology jargon that you not going to understand what's in Kulumangani. So I'm going to ask you about your background. I want to ask you if at home, when you start hearing things, when you start seeing things, when you start believing that, there's things going wrong, what do they do? They go to Msamo, they burn in Pepo, they slaughter a goat, they do this. But now, because you are in a Western environment, you have shied away from that. Let's explore that. Yes. Could that be the cause of your mental problem? Yes. Could that be the cause of you being stuck in this abusive, place?
Psychosis, it is.
Because this man, when you ask him, why are you beating this woman up? He's going to tell you because she's crazy. Why is she crazy? Because she has left her being. She has left her soul. She has looked away from who she is. She has looked away from her roots. She has decided that I'm going to be a stem with no roots. And when the stems start breaking up and has no soul, then we wonder what is happening. Wow. You need to know that as a tree, you need the roots so that you can be nourished. And so if the roots also have these animals that are eating it up, that needs to be treated. So if you don't treat the roots where you come from, you can't then all of a sudden think you're going to mask with makeup and weave and think you're going to just be bold and make it in life. No, because your background is broken.
Hlahla, you mentioned something about theology, and I know that us Black people who are big with faith. Yeah. Can you talk about that piece? And I know that faith plays a role in our healing. Can you share with my community here to normalize coming for psychotherapy, for counseling? Because the other thing I found, churches sometimes mislead the communities, the public. We have pastors that have decided to take over psychotherapy and even literally label their congregation when they are struggling with depression. And you are told that you have no faith. The fact that you are not getting better in just a prayer, you have no faith. Your faith is not enough. Can you talk about that piece? Because a lot of them, these leaders, these fake leaders are misleading people, and people are so vulnerable because these people are hurting. You mentioned something great here. You have a woman who's 25, who's 30. Yes, outwardly is a success, but inside, this is a girl who never healed from the scars. She was raped at 6, and you pray for her, and you tell her that you don't have faith because this is a girl who never came and unpacked that story. Can you please share with them?
Yeah. So again, just like I mentioned, how we as psychologists can also look at the African perspective. Again, as psychologists, we can be Christian, we can be religious. We know what it is to look at the Bible or the scriptures. So again, you cannot say going to a psychologist is evil or it's not necessary and it lacks faith, because you know what? The very same Bafundis and the very same priests and pastors are the same ones when you go and speak to them about how you're being abused at home and be vulnerable to them, they start giving you care and rape you in the very same church. And when you start raising that, the very same congregant of the women in the church are going to say, we stand by our pastor.
Yes.
The women in the church, they're going to say, pray about it.
Yes.
The women in the church, they're going to, the women in the church, they're going to go ahead and say, if this old man wants to marry you because he comes from the church, we need to allow God to to do whatever he needs to do with you.
That's another piece. We're going to get to that.
This is the very same church that has broken the spirits and the souls of the same girls we're talking about today. GBV is not when you have chopped the girl and burnt her body. GBV is when you have killed the soul of the woman that is walking in the church. I think we are missing the point when we just keep focusing on how many dead bodies. I'm going to keep saying this. Dead bodies are walking around with us.
Yes.
Those dead bodies are the ones that are expected to be wives and mothers in the future.
And they are waiting for their funerals because they are dead.
They are waiting for their funeral
days.
Exactly.
See, this is
how many women falls in the hands of the policemen? I tell you now, the most cases of abusive men that get away with murder is the police, because they know how to hide whatever they're doing. The most men that get away with murder is the pastors, because they hide behind the church. The most men that get away with murder are the husbands, because they hide away from the institution of marriage. So look,
teachers. Let's talk about teachers that are abusing boys.
How many of these teenage pregnancies come from the teachers? How many of these teenage pregnancies come from the teachers? Nobody wants to talk about that, because those are the respected people in our communities. And so we have to put them in the high end. We can't say anything bad about it. And the people that silence us the most are the women.
The women. Let's talk about stepdads. There are amazing stepdads there, but also there are stepdads that are destructive. How many young girls reported the cases of rape by their stepfathers to their mothers, and the mother goes barbaric about not my husband. Look, and then this girl child, at some point, because the mother is not believing, because denial is something that is quite an interesting phenomenon, is not believing her own child. She literally takes this girl child who is wounded, like you said, takes her to her mother's place in the village and never goes back there because she doesn't want her to distract her marriage.
But remember, the mother is not silencing the child because she doesn't believe her. Wow. The mother is silencing the child because she knows the truth.
Yes.
And so to protect the self again, you're protecting yourself as the woman, you're protecting yourself as the mother, your own dignity, we call it. So your own dignity to remain intact, you're going to then say, I don't believe you. Deep down, that mother believes the child. And deep down, that mother was raped herself, and she was silent herself. And her defense mechanism and her coping mechanism, and what gives her the courage to actually ignore this thing to happen, is because it was done to her and she's still alive today. So her thing is, it happened to me and I'm alive. Okay. So it's going to happen to you now.
And so that's now women live in that suppressed emotion, and then you wonder why this girl chooses a partner who is emotionally unavailable, a partner who is violent, who is aggressive. This goes even further in relationships. You become a people-pleasing person. In friendships, you are the one who's reaching out to your friends. At work, you never ask for a raise. You are in this workplace for 10 years. You literally cannot ask for the basic need of your right to be here and be compensated for your qualifications. Sis, this doesn't just end in the romantic relationships. This is extensive. It gets to friendships. It gets to a workplace. And then you wonder why we say today we have a society where people are bleeding to people who never cut them. And then this person meets a man who loves her, and you wonder why this relationship is not going forward, because she does not believe she's worth this relationship or this marriage, because she was never nurtured as a young girl. She never believed in herself, because even her mother was a broken girl. The mother wounds are alive in this young lady's life. And then it becomes a recurrent issue here.
When we say it's generational curses, that's exactly what we mean. So in the cultural sense, when something went wrong, there needs to be cleansing.
Yes.
So that there needs to be cleansing, there needs to be appeasing, there needs to be pleading to say this needs to stop, so that we can start a fresh and new life. A friend of mine said, I posted on Facebook the other day, I didn't comment, but she said, where people die, their families go and fetch their spirits. And she said, I'm not saying anything, but just think, why is it that in August, how many women die again? What I picked up from there is those souls that were killed their spirits were never cleansed, their spirits were never picked up, and therefore they are coming back for more, because this is a generational curse. This is a generational trauma that is not healed. At some point, we need, as a country, to say we need healing. We need to either pray over it, we need to do whatever spiritual cleansing that needs to be done to say, whatever happened in the past needs to stop, and we need to start afresh.
You know what, Ntlanhla, I admire actually you guys have started this men's conference. I always say there needs to be also women's conference where women can go and vent and heal. A lot of women are going around with so many bleeding wounds, and unfortunately this doesn't end just in their being, it spills over to their children. We have women today that are bleeding into their children today.
Yeah.
We have women that are very angry, raising angry children. We have women today that have parental alienation syndrome because they did not work out with a partner and they were never given a proper template to parent, and they don't see anything wrong to say whatever about the other partner to their child. All right?
Yeah.
Because again, we have a society where again men have disappointed the women constantly. Women now cannot trust the other gender with their lives and their children. So it becomes a generational curse that I just feel you're so right. Women need to heal from these things. And you're right. We have normalized the outward appearance of success.
Yeah.
We have normalized women we admire and say, wow, Ntlanhla is doing really well. She has a private practice. But we are not talking about Ntlanhla who never healed from her childhood trauma.
No.
I'm reading a book right now by Mark Walling. He talks about it did not start with you. We need to go back and look at this trauma that is generational, that we keep repeating it. This is a recurrence.
Yeah, and we are wounded healers ourselves. So we might just bleed onto our clients.
Yes.
So if I'm wounded myself and people come to me for help, I might just bleed onto them and make the matters worse. So we need to, as healers, to heal too, so that we can then heal others. So we can't just think, well, I'm a healer or I studied psychology or whatever, I'm just going to do it. It can't, because those people come and they trigger you. And whatever you do, you can make matters worse. But I want to say as well is we need to start listening. We need to start, because in most cases, when you sit with the client and you say, let's really think back, you will find that this man has said to this woman, I will kill you. This man will say to you, when I will chop you and hide your body. When I will kill you and you see these kids of yours, I will one day kill all of them. They say it, but we don't listen or we hear it, but we don't get it, because at that time we're immersed by this. He loves me, he can't really do that.
Love. In inverted commas.
And when he does it, you will remember that he actually did say this. It's like when you deal with marital issues as well. A man will tell you when he's not ready to settle down. He'll tell you, Mina, I'm not about to leave my friends. I still love my life. He will tell you I always say with experience, I found that men are the most honest species, and yet they are known to be the most liars.
Because men, it starts with that. A man, when he disappears from your face, why stay and justify the act and keep getting him back to your soul? It starts there, Nhlanhla. I lost Nhlanhla there. This is a lovely conversation. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, so it's really difficult. So if we can just try to listen to the signs, try and watch out for the signs, because in most cases, I'm not saying all the time they're there, but in most cases they are there. And I know today, and in any topic, we generalize. We're not saying all pastors, not all fathers, not all, but we are pointing out the things that are there. And so people also, instead of also listening with taking out the lessons, they start being defensive. And when you be defensive, you don't get the point. And when that thing happened to you, then you will say, you know what, I remember those ladies spoke about this on such and such a day, but I decided to stand by my pastor at that time. And I said, well, look at them. They don't have faith. That's why they're talking like that. So what I'm saying is, in any environment that you are in, listen and put those pointers at the back of your mind and start seeing the signs, because in most cases they're there. Also start seeing the signs when I ask you, Ukuthi Unati, tell me about yourself. What do you like about yourself? You will say, I like that people think I'm reliable. People think I'm always there for them. I'm a giver. I make sure that people are always happy. I make sure that the house is already, I'm a hard worker. I'm dependable. You say nothing about this. So it's always going outward, nothing is coming inwards.
Yes.
So that's another lesson that I want to leave with our viewers today. Yes, I want to leave our viewers with that today is, from today, start looking inwards. When I ask you, Unati, what do you like? You say, I like about myself that I can self-care. I can take time for myself. I know when things are hard. I know when I need to breathe. I know when I need to remove myself from situations. I know when I'm being used. I know when I'm being abused. I know when I'm not sure. So then I ask Unati, but Unati, what do you think? You know, and I want to say to the ladies, because I find that women are starting to confide a lot with friends and whatever, and the friends are never honest enough to say, leave. I don't think it's safe. They want you to stay there because they want to be better than you, or they want you to stay there because they are also stuck in their own abuse. Can we drag each other out and find a safe space? Instead of saying, because I'm staying, I will tell you to stay as well. It's not going to get us anywhere. So I'm saying to women, let's pull each other out. When it's hard, let's cry together. Let's say, look, it's difficult. We don't care what people are going to say, but I am your keeper. Together, we're going to see through this. If at home they say, don't come back, you can come to my house. If my house, you can't come to my house, we're both going to find a shelter, or I'm going to help you find a shelter. Right. So as women, we sort of, so I think we project a lot. So people say, but why didn't you tell me? But I cannot tell you to leave your husband when I'm staying with my husband.
Right.
So I also want you to stay in the abuse, because then I would say, so both of us are in the same situation. And that is why we have this slogan that says, men are dog. You're not going to find a better man. Where are you going to get a better man? All men are the same, so you can't go anywhere. It's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. No, it's better than no devil than to stay with the devil. Just be yourself.
You know what, Nhlanhla? We have a society where women are scared to be alone, or even men, because we're gonna come back and do part 2 here, because
we need the men part.
We do, because you know what, we do see these men who are depressed or who who are lacking that self-esteem and that state of being. You see them womanizing, you see them impregnating a woman and running away, you see them doing all these drugs, and we think these people are acting out, and yet this person is suffering and hurting. Ntlanhla, I want to keep you, but since we're going to close right now, thank you so much to the viewers. And of course, I just want to share with you guys here, whatever we discussed it, take it and sit with it and look into your heart. Look and reflect in your own life. Like Ntlanhla said, even us healers, we come from our backgrounds. Before we can be anything to you, we also need to do the healing constantly. And as long as we all have a brain and a heart, it doesn't matter if you're a psychologist, you are a doctor, you are a mom that is raising kids, you have emotions. And pain is pain. Don't minimize your pain. Don't normalize your pain. When you are hurting, find a trusted friend, or rather, normalize going for therapy. There's many Ntlanhlas out there. Even fortunately, even in the hospitals now, they have social workers and psychologists and counselors. Seek help. Ntlanhla just touched on something that women tend to normalize. Women that are abused by their husbands, they tend to partner, and they're so tight that in a manner that they kind of lick each other's wounds and stay there. And remember, a person who's in an abusive relationship has no energy. The soul has been crushed by the perpetrator. So you need someone who's very neutral, someone who has the skills, the expertise. And I want you not to leave here thinking that we crushed churches. We rely, I'm a Christian, but churches, pastors that are watching us, stay on your lane. Do the part, don't take over. People need to heal their souls. People need to heal their mind. Depression is a reality even in Black people. Let's stop this mentality of it's a white thing. People, as long as I said just now, we have a heart and a brain, we hurt, we feel. Like Ntlanhla said. Ntlanhla, as we close, Sissy, share with my people here where they can find you. Of course, you are on social media, share with them. And yes, and we close finally.
Yeah, so I am physically based in Durban, 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐭, but on social media, I'm Tholinhlanhla Counseling Psychologist. On Instagram, I'm at Dlamini-Ngcoya. And my numbers are 072 64 74464. 072 64 74464.
I wrote it here, Ntlanhla. You know what?
It is there somewhere. But I mean, if you go on my Facebook page and it's Tholinhlanhla Counseling Psychologist, I am there. But basically, and we also, you don't have to be. And what's nice now, and well, there's something that good came out of COVID is now we've been allowed to do online sessions, so we can do visual sessions. Doesn't matter where you are, so we can do that. But I just want to say we love you. Stay strong. Don't shy away from normalize seeking mental health. Please normalize seeking mental health. Even for men, they need to normalize taking their women for mental health sessions. Men need to come for therapy so they know how to be wonderful husbands, because we know the background doesn't cover us in that situation. So we love you and really want to change the narrative and really want to change our communities and want to raise boys who are loving and caring, and so we can change this. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We are coming back for the men. We are coming back. We are coming back for the men.
We're coming back for the men, because you know what? Gender-based violence is so huge, guys. And we didn't touch any financial abuse, because women also go through that. We didn't go there. We just kind of went on that physical and emotional or whatever.
We were introducing, it was an introduction.
It was an introduction. I think we're going to have part 2 and part 3. So come back here, you guys. I love you. And again, like I said, sit with this, analyze, look back in your childhood. I always say our little 6-year-old inner child is yearning for the love and this powerful and successful being that is right outwardly, seems like is successful, has that little child. We all of us has an inner child. So let's go back there to those stories. Let's heal so that we can become better parents, better partners, better co-workers, better friends, better sisters.
Better society. Yeah.
better societies, so that this world is a better place. We want to see these numbers of gender-based violence going down. We want to see a loving place. One time, Clara, actually, as we close, I saw this post of this woman on Instagram, and she said, women, if for 24 hours we did not have men in our country, what would you do? Guess what people said? I would walk out in the evening and go and run in the forest and breathe fresh air. You know, those are the basic things, Sissy, that people need to have. It's your right, human right for big to be here and experience all of that. But people
I just want to say big up to all the loving men that we have in this country. Big up to all the protective men and supportive men, because we have them. Yes. We have them. We have them, and they're loving, and they want to also extend being father figures to the kids that don't have fathers. We have those men. We have those men, and we just want to say big up to them. May they just expand, and be multiply and be more of them, because we love them. We really love. We love having them.
I love the new movements. There's so many movements now, men movement in South Africa. I'm so excited to see these groups of men that are standing up and saying, we don't own this. This is not what a man's supposed to be. So guys, thank you so much for staying with us till the end. We're going to come back here next week. And actually, just to give you a tip, next week we're talking about mother wounds. Right? We're talking about mother wounds. And I'm going to bring this lady again on our next part 2. But next week, come back here. We want to deal with mother wounds, because even moms need to heal. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sis Durban, by the way, I trained in Durban. That was my first internship place in LAS. So it has a very special place.
A special place. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. All right.